nice dry day.
What?
Nice dry heat today.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome to day 15 of my at-home workout for the COVID-19 crisis. We are all doing social distancing and isolated and in our rooms by ourselves for the most part. If you have a roommate, I have my husband. You can get a little bit of work done together. Kevin and I had a really nice evening last night working together for an hour collectively of just working on different things and kind of playing with different things. And it kind of got me thinking about how I've been saying in these at-home workouts that we can work on things at home that we can't necessarily work at in the gym. And yesterday I was watching the patron session that will be the next one to go into the Muay Thai Library. Chai is an incredible Teep fighter, and so he kind of just like super focused in on the Teep in this session, and so I was watching this yesterday so that I can voice it over, and I was thinking about how cool it is to like geek out on a particular technique, to just like really get way into it. And I have done this at the gym before. Like I've become obsessed with a certain thing that I'm working on, like whether it's my block or if it's maybe a hand position or a certain type of knee that I saw that I'm really trying to like pull in. But you're always like in the whole system of what you're doing. And when you're at home and our workouts are much shorter and more boring because there's not other people and things like this, you can take that opportunity to super geek out on literally just one technique. So today I'm actually just going to geek out on the Teep and like work on the things that Chai was showing me in this video. And so if you guys watch this, get into the Teep, we're going to be posting that patron session after I voice it. And so if you watch this and you see me working on it and then you go watch actually Chai teaching it to me, you might have like a more in-depth understanding already to be able to absorb what he's showing me and what he's teaching me as it's actually happening, coming directly from him. Because honestly, I'm not an expert in these things. I'm using the experience that I have, using the understandings that I have, and using my juicy chess club brain to understand what's being shown to me. And I tend to understand both the physical and kind of like, I don't know, abstract elements of techniques pretty well as they're happening, but the more I digest them and the longer I go, the more I understand about them. And 100% what is being taught to me by the actual crew, they understand and demonstrate it in a way that I cannot possibly absorb all of it while it's happening, which is one of the reasons that the voiceover is cool, is that I get like secondary understandings as I'm watching it again. But you, if you go and you watch these library sessions, you might see things that I didn't even see, which I think is really cool. That's one of the reasons, one of many reasons we do the long form instruction and stuff, like highlighting and pretending like a technique can just be like pulled out and highlighted and like, and that's a kick. So I'm going to geek out on the Teep today because I'm pretty excited about it. But I wanted to kind of, I don't know, I've been getting some very nice comments from people who are like, thank you very much for doing these home workouts. They mean a lot to me. They're really helping me. I don't know what people's situations are, what could be helpful about watching someone else's at-home workout. I talk a lot. I am interested in what you guys are asking, and I'm interested in expressing to you the things that I'm thinking about when I do these. But I have to say that it means a lot to me that people are telling me that they value this, or that this is something that's important to them during this time. I might cry, just ignore that if I'm talking. But the thing about this is that I'm kind of struggling today. Yesterday I didn't do a live stream. I went and ran stairs, which was super difficult, and then had an awesome evening playing and doing Muay Thai with Kevin. But it's not easy for me to just like flip on the camera and do these at-home workouts because of my shyness, because sometimes I just don't want to, because I don't know, there's kind of there's a conflict of the accountability of saying that I'm going to do it, and so I really want to go do it because there are people waiting to watch it. And then there's part of me that's just like, I really don't feel like it, and I don't want to show up and like show how depressed I am or like not feeling it. And so it's a conflict of not wanting to fail or be rude in the thing that I said that I was going to do by having a shitty attitude, but I also don't want to just not do it and like give myself a like pass to not be accountable to the things that I know are important to me. And I think there's a little bit of a like secondary step to being accountable to you guys that allows me to remember that I really value this, rather than like convincing myself that I don't just because I don't really feel good. And so I was kind of thinking about this metaphor in a way, which is that I don't actually know what specifically people mean when they say that my videos are really helping them. I don't know if they mean that it helps them think about techniques, if it is just something that they're waiting for during their day, if it's just seeing someone be, dedicated and things like this. But it doesn't cost anything to know that you're affecting other people. It's kind of like if there's a fire in front of me. This is the example I was thinking of. There's a fire in front of me. And there are days when I'm like, I've got some really good, nice logs that I can throw on here and like sustain that fire. And then there are days that I have like twigs in my hands and I'm like, I just have the twigs. Like not really worth it. But if you have kindling of any kind, it's not really your business what other people think of it. You throw it in the fire because it maintains the fire, and what other people are using that fire for doesn't really matter. So there are people who are around the fire who are being kept warm by it by their proximity. But if you let that fire keep going and kind of everyone is pitching in together, like lots of people are doing their at-home workouts, and we're all different, we're all kind of providing different things because we're all different people. If everyone's throwing in whatever kindling they have, whether it's like tiny twigs, big logs, newspaper, cardboard boxes that you have in your attic, like whatever it is that you're throwing in there, it's not even just the people who are being kept warm by the proximity directly around it, but there are people out there in the fucking woods, in the dark, who are going to see the light of the fire, and they're going to be able to find their way towards that. So I'm not feeling awesome today, but I know that there are people who are much farther from that fire than I am, and being able to keep that light going is something that's important to me. And I wanted to make a point about depression, or about lack of motivation, or feeling sorry for yourself. I'm really good at feeling sorry for myself. Is that it's a positive thing, and if you listen to like self-help coaches or like life coaches, a lot of them will say that gratitude is this really, really important thing, that when you wake up, part of your like morning routine should be writing down things that you're grateful for. And I personally struggle with this, not because I'm not grateful for things, but because I'm incredibly good at guilt. And so I will feel guilty for not genuinely feeling grateful for the things that I should feel grateful for, because at that time I'm genuinely feeling sorry and bad and grieving the things that are stronger than that feeling of gratitude. I think it's very dangerous to guilt yourself into feeling grateful, because gratitude is actually a really positive emotion. It's a very genuine emotion. And so you should only really feel real gratitude. And so I have this thing that I do, which I kind of have come upon myself. I'm not a life coach. I'm not anything. But because I have this propensity for guilt of not feeling grateful for the things that I should feel grateful for, and I have a lot of things to be grateful for, a lot of us do, but it's hard to feel those things when we also are like shut away and struggling and things like this. There's a Buddhist prayer that I say almost every day, which kind of goes like this, which is, if there is anyone who out of ignorance has done something to hurt me, I forgive them. If I have done anything out of ignorance to hurt someone else, I hope they forgive me. And if there is anything that I am not yet ready to forgive myself for, I forgive myself for that. And what I like so much about that last one is that you forgive yourself for not being ready, rather than like forcing the forgiveness. And I think that this pairs really well for this gratitude issue, which is, I'm actually genuinely grateful for the fact that I can feel ungrateful. Because there are people who literally are in such shit situations that they are grateful for the tiniest scrap, and they are genuinely grateful for this tiny, tiny thing, that I have abundance beyond this. And so instead of guilting yourself by being like, there are people who have it much worse than me, you can go ahead and just be grateful for the fact that you can experience ingratitude in your circumstances, and then move to being more forgiving and grateful beyond that. But it kind of pairs with what I was saying about the fire, is that if you tend your fire in these situations that aren't even necessarily for you, you have the proximity to the fire, it keeps you warm, but there are people way the fuck out there in the woods that just need the light. And so I think it's important at this time, especially because everyone is experiencing this in many different ways, to be honest about that and to be generous about that in terms of how you maintain. I'm going to look and see if anyone was watching while I was talking like that, and then I'm going to get into my workout. Nick Cara is watching. Special K in Australia. He's home with his baby daughter. Hey, Nick Cara. If you guys have ever watched Ong Bak, he's Big Bear. He trained with me over at WKO here in Pattaya. He's a very, very sweet guy. Not like Big Bear at all, other than that he's enormous. Claire, thank you for saying that this is helping you. That helps me. That is, just saying that is putting logs in the fire for me, so that's really cool. I'm going to start by actually getting going and moving around. So if you guys want to get up and join me, even if you only do it for a smaller number than what I'm actually doing, I'm doing 100. You guys can do a smaller number if that's better for you, but just even getting up and actually doing it is a way to kickstart the engine a little bit. I'm going to do 100 elbows, and then I'm going to start geeking out on my teep. So I'm actually totally going to keep it loose today and not even count my sets. I'm just gonna feel my way through everything today. So the thing about this teep, and I can't even say it's a teep. Charnchai has built an entire style around his teep. And one of the things that's so cool about these guys in the library who have a particular move that they're really amazing at, Dieselnoy doesn't only throw knees. Dieselnoy is actually an incredibly well-rounded fighter, but his knees are just so impressive that you kind of forget the other parts. There's also very, very, very little footage of Dieselnoy, so the parts that people see are kind of highlights, and so people who claim that all he did was knee have no fucking idea what they're talking about, because we actually don't have any footage of him. The full fight of him versus Samart very recently surfaced. We interviewed him and watched it with him and had him talk about it. There's a video of that on YouTube that you can watch. Dieselnoy's very charming, he's very sweet. We posted it, and all the Thai comments are about what a great personality he has and how genuine he is. He and Samart are very, very good friends. But someone like Charnchai who has a teep, or Yodkunpan who has the elbows, or even Samart had the teep. People are really fascinated in this thing. What makes it amazing about these stylists who have one technique or one strike that's just amazing is that they can do it from anywhere. It's that thing where it's Yodkunpan's gonna elbow you, so just defend elbows, but he can do it from fucking anywhere. So he has to have so much in his arsenal in order to get to the thing that he's gonna do. So Charnchai, having this incredible teep, has built an entire thing around it. I really like this about the people in the library who have something very particular, like Silipatai's kick is like, he could literally just kick all day. It's crazy. I asked Karahat a little bit joking, why did you kick with Silipatai? Like, why ever would you just kick against Silipatai? You're not going to win that fight. And he's like, what else was I supposed to do? And I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, he's not going to like go in and grab him and clinch. Silipatai is an amazing, like, throwing him off, all this type of stuff. So it's a little bit like that. One of the things that when I was working with Chanchai really affected me was there's this line in Mean Girls that's like, I thought before there was just fat and skinny, but it turns out tons of things can be wrong with your body. I thought that a teep could just be not fast enough or not hard enough. So many things can be wrong with your teep because so many things can be right with your teep, and it creates like an entire vocabulary of teeping by these different elements that go into it, which is really fucking cool. So when I was watching this video, I was noticing that I have like this weakness in my ankles that makes my balance all wonk, which is one of the reasons I was skipping rope and talking about ankle strength, I think on day 3. If you go back and watch my home workouts, I was in Chiang Mai at the time. But Chanchai was showing me this simultaneous thing with his hands. He was going like this, that your standing foot and your teeping foot go like this simultaneously. And I could not do it, but it's something that I'd really like to do. So I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to work on striking from a standstill, because striking from a standstill is actually a really cool thing to work on. We don't stand still in the ring unless you're Samark, who looks like he's standing at a bus stop and then just like kills you. But most of us are moving around different angles, and so you have to learn how to strike from all this different movement, which is one of my favorite things about the gallop, which is Yodkun Pon's footwork. I've written about the gallop, I've talked about the gallop a lot. There are definitely articles and videos about this, but basically learning to feel where your strikes come out of your movement and your footwork is really important, because that's naturally how you're going to be working in the ring. But doing something out of a standstill is actually also very important, because it takes away the unintended habits of getting to that strike. So you might not know that you have a tell, that you always go like this before you hook. You might not know that. But if you do it from a standstill, like if you have a wall next to you and you like go like this, or if when you're kneeing, you have to step like this and your opponent has to be there, otherwise it won't go. You don't know those things, but if you can knee from a dead standstill like that, you've really isolated out kind of the range of motion of that knee. Andy Thompson, who was my first mentor in Thailand, he owned Lana Camp when I first moved there. Unfortunately, he's passed away. He was talking to me about this in a video we made where he was showing me basically like an at-home workout, but he was like a mad scientist of the mountain, like always coming up with new ways to do strength training. And he had stagnant, like in-place shadow boxing. And he was talking about how when he got new people at his hill camp, if he would have them do it static instead of like, okay, I have to have my rocking and my movement and my stuff, and it's like just parrot straight down, stand exactly where you are, and just throw the strike like this. He was saying that their technique accelerated in kind of a crazy way. I believe Andy in this, so I'm going to try it. So I'm going to do the stagnant teep, and I'm going to do the like simultaneity teep. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to teep. I don't think I can teep my window, so I'm going to do it over here. But I'm going to focus on coming up, like rising up on my standing foot at the same time as my teeping foot landing against the target. It's a little bit wonky today because my calves hurt from running the stairs yesterday, but we're going to work on it. So if you guys are joining me, work on those things. That's what I'm working on. So a couple of things I'm noticing is that I do not feel the simultaneousness of it. I also don't feel that it's staggered. I actually just don't have precision of feeling on that at all. But I can tell that it's not this kind of thing that I'm hoping to feel. So I'm basically taking a very dull, mostly tasteless thing and trying to identify a flavor, whether it's right or wrong, so that I can kind of make adjustments to it. On top of that, if you guys have been watching my at-home workouts, I've done Teeps before, and I've talked about how as a Muay Thai fighter or as a forward fighter, your Teep is much shorter. So a femur stylist like Chanchai, like Samart, and like Karahat, they like this really long Teep because it's like, stay over there. If you watch Sylvie, who I mentioned, his style is basically juggling people with a Teep and then kicking them. So he's basically like, not yet, not yet, not yet, now you're in my space, bam, and he just kicks the crap out of people. The Teep is an amazing weapon. As a forward fighter and as a Muay Thai fighter, my Teep that I prefer and that works well for me is actually quite short. That does not mean don't work on long Teeps. Learn all of the things. Learn all of them and then develop things out of that, because you actually don't know what you're going to be. It's not like a fixed set of which techniques you can use as Muay Thai or which techniques you can use as Muay Mat or anything like that. You have your own diction. Like, everyone learns English, but how you actually talk is quite unique to each person, or whatever language you actually speak. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So don't use a mold for what is available to you. Instead, like, carve and whittle and try things out and see like what's nice. So I'm still trying to get more distinct feelings. I'm actually going to try to do it a little bit wrong in order to get more articulated feelings about what I'm doing. So there I can feel, I tried coming up first and then teeping, because that's not the timing that I want. So by coming up and then teeping, that's not it, that's staggered. So then I'm trying to get the 2 feet to kind of go together. I feel that a little bit. I'm going to try to use the other. It's a little bit easier when I throw my back teep because my weight is not already on my front foot. So I can shift my weight onto my front foot at the same time as this leg's coming up. What that tells me is that the reason I'm not getting simultaneous movement on my feet with my front teep is because of where my weight is. So I used my other leg to figure out what's happening with this leg, which you can do if you switch stance sometimes. Like, if you're very, very dominant right-handed, just go southpaw for a second and do something that you do all the time, and it helps you slow down and like, how does that actually go? Because you're not comfortable there. So by being uncomfortable, you have to be like, okay, that's where the turn is. So you can cheat yourself by forcing yourself into a more beginner state than you're actually at by switching stance, or by using your other leg that actually does it more naturally to see why it does it that way. Something else that Chanchai said to me is Chanchai said to keep your guard up, because if you miss on a teep, you're going to be kind of throwing yourself into someone's space. So if I teep and I don't hit that person because they've moved off to the side and I kind of land like here and my hands are down, that is a fucking open side kick in the face. So one, maintain control of your teep. So even though I'm hitting the wall in order to try to get this simultaneous feeling, then doing it in shadow where I'm not hitting anything so that I can feel that I have control the entire time is a really good exercise. You can do this with your kicks as well. It's like learning to control your kick all the way through the motion instead of having to run into something to stop it. So I've done it against the wall. I have not solved it, but I'm starting to feel the simultaneousness of it, but I want to control it the whole time. So I'm also going to try it in air. In order to get them to go like this, which is what I'm trying to do, I can't do a short chamber up teep, like kind of a front kick type of thing. That's more of a shorter one. So my leg kind of doesn't come straight up. It kind of, like a grasshopper leg, just kind of comes up this way. Ah, okay. So on that one, I teeped, and I kept letting my standing leg come down after my front foot. I should reverse that. This one has to come, my heel has to come down here in order to control that foot. So instead of this foot comes down and then that one goes down, my weight's not in the right place. Instead, this one comes down and then there, and then I'm ready to do something else off of it. Crew Man-Op is the one who taught me that off of kicks. So if you kick and this heel comes down first, you're on balance. If you kick, I'm coming up on me. If you kick and this one comes down and that one's not ready, you're not on balance. The standing leg has to let the heel drop first for balance. All right. So, in continuing of feeling my guard being up and feeling the order in which my weight is transferring in order to try to get balance and simultaneity on that, I'm going to do 100 more elbows because I want to keep being like active, but then I'm going to go do the teeps again. So if you guys are doing elbows with me, elbow time, and then if you're doing teeps with me, we'll do them right after that. But again, I'm still trying to get the like swing on my elbows without engaging my feet too much, and to keep them higher because I don't want to be elbowing down like this. Something that I thought about kind of in feeling like depressed and unmotivated is that most of us are not injured, which is great. But the circumstances we find ourselves in are a lot like when you have an injury. A lot of people, when they have an injury, they just stop and they have this like fear of missing out and they're really bummed that they can't train anymore. I'm someone who's always trained around injuries. It's kind of my ethic, and I'm also like, no fucking way am I staying away from the gym when I'm injured. So I train around injuries pretty well, but I still sulk about the thing I can't do. So if I'm unable to kick, I can do everything else, but I'll still be mad that I can't kick. And I think that the psychology of what we're experiencing right now of not being able to train in our regular circumstances are very much like training around or with injuries. Learning how to do that well now will benefit you immensely ongoing when we eventually get back to our gyms and fight and things like this. Psychologically dealing with injuries and physically dealing with injuries is an incredible skill to have. I feel like I'm very lucky in being as stubborn as I am. And it kind of like put me a few rungs above other people in terms of like, I will just do it anyway. But just now when I was doing my 100 elbows, I was reminded that those hurt my lower back, right? So when I do my 500 elbows during the day, I'll have kind of a sore back when I stop. It like kind of stiffens up. This is good, actually, because I figured out where it came from, and it also means I'm having tension in the wrong places. Pain is not a horrible thing. Pain is an incredible teacher. If I'm told to keep my hands up 800 times, I may or may not keep them up. If I'm hit because my hands aren't up like twice, fucking keep my hands up. It's the same thing about using pain to self-diagnose what might be causing it. So I think it was day 3 when I was skipping rope and I was talking about my weak ankles. When I started doing the Long Swan 1000, which was a challenge I set for myself and a bunch of people joined in on, which was awesome. It was doing 1,000 skip knees per day. I am a kind of person that went from like doing 300 because that's what my set was to doing 1,000 like within the next day. Like I'm not a build up type of person. If you are, that is good. That's fine. I'm not. And so I started like every time I do something that's super bouncy that I wasn't doing before, I get this kind of like tendinitis on the side of my Achilles. It's not my Achilles, it's on the side. I do it when I change my running shoes. I do it when I start bouncing on the tire because I'm not generally a tire bouncer, but sometimes I'll get way into it. The thing is, instead of being like, obviously God doesn't want me to run because my foot hurts every time I run, it allows you to figure out what it is you're doing when you're running that's causing that pain. So when I'm doing my elbows and it causes my lower back to hurt, what I'm doing wrong is I'm too tense in that area, and so I have to figure out how to get that crazy rotation and not hurt my back. Yodkun Pan, when he does it, he just has this incredible looseness that you can see. It's really, really visible and really beautiful. And so I'm trying to like locate the areas where I have that tension, like my shoulders will really hurt, or when I first started doing the diamond guard with Kevin, my neck was killing me because of this tension that I had in it. So one, use this opportunity to learn how to deal with injury really, really well, because most of us currently are not injured, but we're experiencing the same psychology as if we were injured. So learn how to get really good at it now, because you can't stop it. You can't just tell the disease to go away. And 2, if you are experiencing pain or small injuries or things that you're doing that you hadn't done before, use it as a diagnostic. It's actually really, really, really good to help you learn about what you might be doing or how to do it better, is how off balance you might be or what you're doing with your ankle. There's no reason why doing 1,000 skip knees should cause my right ankle to hurt. Like, there's no reason. So I have to figure out why it's not landing the same as my left one and stuff like that. My note on injuries. Do that in space a little bit to get that balance again. Not coming down on that heel first is what made me off balance there. There we go. It's harder to do. All right. See if there are questions. All right. I'm going to do 100 more elbows if you guys want to join me. And again, I'm going to try to figure out how to release my back, so I'm going to not pay as much attention to form. I still want my elbow to come past the center point. I don't want to be going like this because I don't want to fix the release in my back with something that I don't want to be doing. I'm going to allow mistakes that are kind of peripheral. Again, it's like when you're tightening something, you kind of have to do it at a bunch of places and go back and change this bolt while you do that one and this kind of thing. So I'm going to allow there to be inconsistency. I'm going to allow there to be mistakes in order to find how to relax my back. But the one thing that I'm not going to release this bolt on is the elbow coming past the center point, because that part is necessary for the kind of twist that I'm getting in my back. So if I allow it to just stop here, just stopping it there might release my back and I'm not learning anything. So I'm going to keep the elbow going past the center point and try to figure out how to release my back while I'm doing that. So I'm also going to slow down a little bit to see how I can do that. So I would feel it getting more tense and I would feel it getting more loose as I was playing with how much staying on my toes I was. So instead of coming up on a toe like this, the way you might if you were like a boxer, instead of being flat foot ever, I stayed on my toes and let the twisting happen, but kind of kept my heels off, and that released my back more than other things. So then I'd put my heel back down and feel it tighten up. So I think it's being too grounded is creating a tension in the back that I don't want. So I'm just popping my heels up a little bit more without twisting my feet in order to take that pressure off. Something that I see a lot from when people come from the West is we don't really like throwing our crotches at people. It's not something that's comfortable. Thais don't really have a problem with it because it's part of the form. But a lot of people, when they're clinching or something, they kind of like go like this because we're trying to like keep distance between the other person, as like being polite or something. You really have to have your hips in for almost every element of Muay Thai all the time. And if you're just going to push your hips forward, this is actually not super comfortable. You get like a kind of strain right here. I'm feeling a little pressure on my lower back and I'm kind of like not in control of my head. The thing that I found, and I actually discovered this while I was working at a bar in a day shift, and I was bored out of my mind, was trying to figure out how to scoop my hips without feeling like this because I was slouching like shit at the bar all the time. What I discovered is that if I was standing pretty normal with like my hips more or less neutral like this, if I just bent my hips forward, bent my knees like this, my heels come up and my hips come forward and I kind of have this little scooped posture. This is my clinch. This is like 90% of the time Sylvie, when she's clinching, looks like this. And it's literally just like if someone had like cut the back of my knees so that they kind of pop forward like this and my heels come up like that. So that's probably more or less the same solution for those elbows. Look at that, just do weird stuff. Alright, so I'm going to start doing the Teeps from a standstill. This is really hard for me, and actually in the patron session that we're going to post with Charnchai, I was doing this kind of like jumping vertically in order to like hit the bag like this. That's not what it is. It's a little bit of a water skip forward or like hydroplaning. So you're more or less from a standstill, like hopping in, but with a teep. So if you're starting at this from nothing, just take your foot off the floor. Don't do the teep yet, but just see if you can get that like thing here. Then who was my trainer at Lana Muay Thai, he had this fucking insane kick that like, you're like, you can't reach me from there, there's no way. And then he would just kind of like slide across the ground, like his kick would cover like 6 feet. It was completely crazy. And it's because he was doing this with his foot as he was coming to kick. So you thought, you can't reach me from there, but then his foot like cheated and like get like rollerblades across the ground. It's the same thing. So I'm doing it with my front leg. That's what Tranchai was doing. So you basically want to plant that foot, just lift your foot off the ground so you're forced to use your standing leg and get a little bit. You want it to more or less slide across the ground. You don't want to get a lot of air. This is why I was struggling in the session with him, is I was getting way too much air. And you can even, oh, who was it? I'm looking at Kevin as though he can hear me. I think it was Satan Wonglek. I love his patron session because he just teaches me clinch throws, which I love. Satan Wonglek is an awesome clincher. He went into boxing for a little while and was really awesome at that, but I'm so happy he's back at Muay Thai now. He is awesome. He kind of does, if you can picture being on a bicycle and pedaling backwards, like this, that's what he does with his foot when he's doing his little hop forward. He goes like that. That helps me, because it kind of creates this little like momentum. So if you picture your foot going like that, like the backwards cycling of a bike, it's a little bit like that. So I'm trying to really start from a standstill. I'm cheating and like kind of taking a little step forward like this. I can do that. I already know that one, right? I already know how to like walk and kick my opposite side. It's doing it, like I was saying, Krunu just kicks from a standstill. He's like here and he's like, bop, now I'm kicking with my front leg. It's hard to do things from a standstill, so it's cool to learn to do things from a standstill. So I'm creating momentum with that kind of Satan Wonglek backwards pedal. You can also use that as a fake, the same backwards pedal. And since it looks like your teep, people will believe you when you fake. I have a problem in that my fakes don't look anything like the real technique, so it's like, it's obvious that I'm faking because it doesn't look like the real one. So make your fakes look like the real one. So if you've spent any time in Thailand, you will have a coach at some point teach you to turn your foot kind of sideways on a teep. It's not a like karate side kick. You're teeping normal teep, but you're just going to twist your hip a little bit at the last second like this. It makes it hard to catch. So if you're teeping like this, you've created a little handle with your heel. It's actually super easy to catch with a glove. If you're fast, you can teep again and just gut someone. It's kind of awesome. But if you have this little turn on it, it's actually very slippery and it's hard to catch. So something that I'm trying on this teep, and this is how Samart teeps people from like 10 feet away. It's got like a little turn on the end of it. Like that heel's kind of like skipping. Michelle asks whether this thing is constant posture or whether it's for clinching. a version of it is for always, and then that like exaggerated version is for clinching. The thing about clinching is that you don't, unless you're Berklerk or who was it, Kruham? I think it was Berklerk and Kruham were the two who had me stay in stance while clinching. Neither of them are clinchers, but what they do is they shove their front leg between their opponent's legs and just use it to like off balance and snuff knees, which is very cool, but it's not a clincher's clinch. So in general, when you're clinching, you more or less end up squared for the most part. You use it so that you can change direction all the time. If you stay in your stance and you need to go in a different direction, I can go this way easily because I can just walk into it, but I have to shift my weight a bunch of times if I need to go to the outside of my opponent that way, and I don't have power so much to move them unless I'm stepping past them. So the exaggerated version of looking like this, this is for clinch. Like I don't fight like this, but when I'm in my stance, I do still want my hips forward, and so it's kind of a bend in the knees. If you peg leg like this, you end up kind of with your butt back and you like can't throw anything. So you want the bend in your knees, and that kind of brings your hips forward. Anyway, so this is a version of it. My knees are bent, heels come off the floor like that. That's my if I were a video game character in Bounce and you were gonna pick me on Soul Calibur. That's what I'd look like this. Then when I clinch, it's way more like scooped out like that. So that's the answer to that. I'll see if there's another question. Okay. That's gonna be it for my live stream today. I'm gonna do some conditioning and then I'm gonna play with Kevin throughout the night. We're doing some belly pad, blocking, kneeing, fun stuff. We're just kind of improvising. It's awesome that I live with someone who I love and who knows a lot about Muay Thai because we can play together. For those of you who are living totally alone, find ways to interact with someone else, like do the same workout together, do like I don't know what they call it, FaceTime, like some kind of chat, like connect to each other. Because what I was talking about lighting the fire, throwing whatever kindling you have, is helping maintain the sanity and kind of passion and momentum of everyone around you. Even if it's just some tiny thing, it makes a difference. So be generous and don't worry about having bad days. We all have bad days. Sometimes you just got to get through them, and sometimes you can make them a little better. And even if you can't make them better for yourself, maybe you can make them better for someone else, and that's kind of cool too. But it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be sad, and it's okay to be missing out on things and feeling like, when will this end? All of those are completely fine emotions, but just don't sit in it so much. Like, don't let it be a wet blanket kind of thing, because wet blankets snuff the fire rather than building the fire. I'm also going to run, because I can run, and I can find places where I'm alone to do it, which is really nice. So if you guys have things that you can do, even if they're only 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that is, do them and see how they make you feel. Thank you guys for being on my live stream. You guys are kindling to me. You are not tiny twig kindling. You guys are pretty significant kindling to me. And so I thank you guys for joining me in this stuff and letting me like babble and geek out about my things. Today was a special day. It was the Sylvie's Geek Out episode where I got to just like focus on one technique, because sometimes I get like way dug into something, which is fun. I will continue to answer questions if I see them when people ask these after the live stream is over, or if I missed anything. You can also go to the Muay Thai Roundtable, which is a Muay Thai forum. You can ask questions there. You can answer questions over there. You can post things that you want to talk about that are interesting. That is a bonfire over there, for sure. Very, very interesting topics going on over there, and also very personal topics. It is a very nice, friendly forum. So do not be shy about posting personal things there. We have a very, very nice community. Kevin and I are diligent about making sure that everything that could even just slightly be outside of appropriate gets cut out right away, because we really don't tolerate people being mean or people being inappropriate. And there's also a women's only section. If you're a woman and I know that the internet is not a super friendly place for women, and there's something that you would be more comfortable talking about with only other women, we have a female-only section that you can post things there if you're going through anything or have questions about something that you don't really want to post publicly. It's just a little bit of a secondary step back for a little bit more privacy, which I think is very cool. I have not really seen that anywhere else, and it has been used in a very lovely way thus far. It does not have to be deep, dark, personal stuff. It can totally be comfortable things that you're just more comfortable saying to other women, or only want advice from other women. You don't want the super male internet answering. So Charnchai is who I was talking about today. I also mentioned a bunch of other people. They're all in the Muay Thai Library. You can check that out. Kevin and I add 2 new entries every month. This is insane. I can't. There's already 94 hours of long form training in the Muay Thai Library, but it grows by 2 every month. The reason I say this is crazy is because, one, it's so hard to, like, you will not run out anytime soon. If this, self-isolation maintains for a really long time, you're still not going to get all the way through the library. There's so much in there. But why it's insane is that the, workload and, output of 2 sessions per month is something that I don't think that people even would demand of us if we weren't doing that, and eventually maybe we'll have to slow it down a little bit, but it's so much going out all the time, which I think is a sign of our passion for it and also our sense of urgency, because the reason we have the Muay Thai Library is actually this kind of sense of urgency that Muay Thai is changing very, very quickly, not only in Thailand but around the world. I think this is kind of a natural thing. Muay Thai is a living art form, and so of course it's going to change. Of course things are going to shift based on how things are scoring. Living gyms like my gym, Petrungrung, that has active fighters, they have to pay attention to how things are scored because you want to win. So you can't be like, no, I'm only going to do things the old way, even if it's not necessarily better the way it is now. But a lot of the techniques that are so incredible and distinct and kind of made by the Golden Age, not invented by the Golden Age fighters, but encapsulated by the Golden Age fighters, these techniques are disappearing from Muay Thai really fast. And what's kind of urgent about that is that the Golden Age legends and crews and fighters, they're aging out of being able to teach that, of being able to show those techniques and preserve them. So the Preserve the Legacy project is preserving the technique of Muay Thai in Thailand, of all different people, all different Muay. It's not specific of we only want this one line. We want all of it, but it's also archiving the men who retain it and teach it. And so you get very cool, not only are you getting the technique, but you also get to meet Charchai and Charnchai and Diesel Noi and Samart and people like that. I will fully admit I was not a super big fan of Samart's style before meeting him. I know he's incredible. I know his technique is amazing. I know his fighting is great. It's just not the kind of fighting that I love to watch. When I met Samart, I'm like, done. This dude is amazing. Seeing it in front of me and actually meeting him and seeing how his style expressed him, totally a huge fan of Samart now. Totally converted. And I think that's really important for what's happening with archiving these men in the Muay Thai Library as well. So we'll be putting up Charnchai when we can, and hopefully you guys like his style, like his technique, love geeking out on the Teep, and like meeting him, because he was actually a really sweet, kind of interesting guy who was very, very patient with me, wanting to move through all the different elements of learning all the different techniques and elements that go into his teeping style, which is really cool. So stay safe, everybody. Check out those library sessions of anybody I mentioned if you're interested in that. If you'd like to support me as a fighter and everything that I do, that's also patrons. So thank you to my patrons for making this possible, making all of it possible. And take care of yourselves. And I don't know, not to sound like an arsonist, but throw some kindling in the fire.